All right, so I'm going to be going over the third module, Module 3, Group Research Paper. So in your course modules, you'll see this module at the bottom, and underneath it, you'll see the stages that we are going to be conducting as a group. We're going to be going through stage 1 through 5 together. So I'll briefly cover what those stages are here. So stage 1, we're going to be brainstorming to determine what we know prior to starting research. The group compiler will submit the group's shared Google Doc as a PDF or Word document. So I've already shown you guys how to use the Google folders that I invited you to, and you'll have to choose a compiler for your group who will be the person in your group who does the submissions to Blackboard, because we only need to submit one per group, right? Stage 2, we're going to do evidence of interpretation charts again. So groups will create evidence interpretation chart for each source they intend to use, 5 sources minimum. The EI charts have the information students want to use from their sources, the type of information found, and the possible place in the paper where the information will be used. The group compiler will submit these shared Google Docs as PDFs or Word documents. Stage 3, we'll do organizing charts. So these will involve you, the students, taking information from the EI charts, and organizing by type of information on the organizing charts. The group compiler will submit the group's documents, and based on my feedback, groups will move information from one section to another and or find additional information from the sources. In stage 4, we're going to write a partial draft. Students will transfer the information from the organizing charts into a partial draft. Based on my feedback on the organizing charts, the groups will move information from one section to another and or find additional information from sources. And groups can assign who will complete each section as a way to organize this task. The group compiler will submit the group's shared Google Doc as a PDF or Word document. Stage 5, final essay. Students will use my feedback and their partial draft to revise and edit their final essay. The group compiler will submit the group's shared Google Doc again and submit that. Okay. So stage 1, brainstorming. Stage 2, evidence interpretation charts. Stage 3, organizing charts. And stage 4, partial drafts. Finally, stage 5, submitting the final essay. So let's go into the module and take a look at some of the folders here. So firstly, we have the module overview. And while that loads, I'll take you through some of the other folders. Hopefully, as long as this is loading properly. There's APA documentation. Oh yeah, it loaded. Okay, so what do we want to do in this module? So we're doing a social issues group essay. So we're going to be trying to work together essentially and attempt to complete a group project. The main activities here, so I'll be doing some graded APA exercises. APA is the format you're going to use for the essay. I'll be grading the class discussions on the model essays. So this will be what I see you guys working on from week to week. And especially on the phases of the project. And then the final graded group project. Those will be the main tasks. So we're going to be using APA documentation. So you can find the rules for APA formatting here. Here is a checklist that you can use in order to make sure that you have done all of your APA formatting. And here's the APA website as well for your reference. So we can look at these two briefly. So here's the checklist. So basically, if you want to make sure that you're using proper APA formatting, you conceivably could go through this checklist and make sure that everything looks right. What we specifically want to pay attention to are the formatting. So on the title page, and then the paper format, those are things that are specific to APA that may be different from MLA that we'll want to pay attention to so that we don't accidentally use the wrong formatting. And these don't look like they're going to load for me, but they are there for your reference if you need them. Okay. Next, I'll go to this speech and debate topics website. And I'll also open up these links so that we can go through them as well. So this website is the website for the National Speech and Debate Association. The reason I've posted it here for you is as a way for you maybe to start brainstorming your essay topic with your group. So you're going to be doing a social essay, and this website has tons of topics for social essays. So here's an example of a potential social essay topic. In a democracy, a free press ought to prioritize objectivity over advocacy. So that if you're interested in writing about freedom of speech, freedom of press, that might be a group topic for you. That would be especially interesting maybe for some journalism or English majors. Here's another topic. Civil disobedience in a democracy is morally justified. So that's another social issue topic that could be of interest to you, maybe if you're in a criminal justice program or even a sociology program, philosophy program. And this website has tons of these topics. If you actually scroll down to the very bottom, there's actually I'm sorry, not the very bottom, very top, there's past topics. And when you click that, it sends you down to the bottom. And then you can just browse past topics. there are seemingly hundreds of past topics that you could choose from here. So there's no shortage of ideas, and any one of these ideas on here should be valid for valid as a good topic that you could use for your essay. All right, so what's next? We have lectures, models, and submit assignments here. So here's the lectures page. So here's the rubric for an essay using research. We already went over this before. The APA project directions, we might go over that one. Group meetings and sharing mobile phone numbers is not required. So most of you have already been communicating over email. You don't have to meet or share numbers because we can communicate pretty well using our WCJC emails. But it may help you to have group meetings and share numbers. Just know that you're not required to. So let's look at the overview first, and then we'll go on to stage 1, stage 2, library tutorial, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5, a sample cover page, thesis statement basics, finding original sources, signal phrases while writing, signal phrases while integrating, and Google Docs info. All right, so starting with the overview. Well, I suppose we'll have to start with a sample cover page. All right, so what should your cover page look like? If you're wondering that, you can always look at this example. So this is going to be what your cover page looks like. Basically, you're going to want to put all of this information. So what do we have first? We have this header, topic identity theft. We have the page number over here. Then we have the title, Identity Theft, Destroying America from Within. And then we have the authors and their contributions. So Jeff Brown wrote the abstract and introduction. Juan Gonzalez wrote the next paragraph, etc., etc. And here we put our institution's name, Wharton County Junior College, and then we put an author's note describing what the reader needs to know. So this paper was prepared for English 1302, section 164, taught by Professor Prince. So that is the general format that you'll want to use for your cover page. All right, so research assignment, problem solution essay. So that's the type of essay we're going to be writing, is problem solution. So the essay is going to be persuasive, and you're going to try to propose the best solutions for a research problem. And the project will have 4 sections. In your thesis, you need to propose 3 solutions for the problem and be sure the thesis is an assertion. Make sure that your thesis conveys the need for solving the problem. So here's a list of possible topics right here. So what are some of them? Binge drinking among college students, texting and driving, driving while intoxicated, job stress, college students in stress, student loan crisis, high school dropout rate, police brutality, rising costs of higher education, classroom overcrowding, opioid crisis, teen suicide, student debt crisis, predatory lending, other social issues topics. So you in theory could write about whatever interests you, but I do have some overall recommendations. One recommendation would be to write about something relevant to you. So you'll notice that a lot of these topics are relevant specifically to people in college and in and around the college age group. You might want to refine that even further, though. If you want to, you could write about topics specific to the group that you're in. So our groups are mostly pairings of majors that are either similar or when they couldn't be similar, were adjacent. So you could write about something that your group is interested in. Maybe you're all business majors and want to write something about business. Maybe you're all nurses and want to write something about nursing. Those are probably better options because, they get you thinking within your major, right? All right. Page 2. So first we want to explain the problem, the nature of the problem. Your group will decide which parts to include. Papers must have headings for different sections of the paper. Okay, so you want to look into the scope, who's affected by the problem, demographics, information that might appear in your introduction, the background, right? Definition, what is the nature of the problem? History, what is the history of the problem? Causes, what are the causes of the problem? Effects, what are the effects of the problem? All of this you want to introduce up front. You're going to use quotations and paraphrases from research to strengthen your arguments. And you're going to use evidence from sources, which will include the following types of information: expert testimony, statistics, comments from people with personal experience, examples of people affected. All of those are fair game for what you would use, but refrain from including personal information unless you support that personal information with evidence. All right. Next, transitions and solutions. We want the fourth section to offer at least 3 solutions to the problem. Papers should have headings for the different sections. In the body paragraphs paragraphs for the solutions for the solution section of the paper, we want to present arguments that explain why the solutions are best. Use quotations, summaries, paraphrases from research. And make sure to discuss all of the aspects of each solution. So the nature of the solution, the cost of the solution, and when available, the evidence that the solution will work or has worked. And you can also find expert testimony saying that it will work. So in the concluding paragraph, restate the thesis. Remember, restate means to use different words for the same ideas. And produce closure by stating what the result will be if your solution is enacted. Next, documentation. So we want to include citations from at least 5 research sources. Also, be sure to include in-text citations for all paraphrases, summaries, and quotations. 5 sources is the minimum, and points will be taken off if the minimum number is not used. So we don't want more than a third of the sources to be internet sources. Your other sources can be books and periodicals from the library or articles available within the online databases. The sources should be current. Don't use old sources. Be sure to cite sources appropriately with in-text citation and list sources in a reference page at the end of the paper. You may use more than 5 sources. If you do, just make sure that the majority aren't from the internet. So you may want to use this SIRS Researcher, and then you could move to eLibrary. Those are ways of researching that I'll show you. Next, the third section is a references page in correct APA format for the sources you use in the essay. Do not list the source unless you've actually cited it in the essay. Also, there's a sample reference page at the end of the model. Do not number your sources. Each section of content should have a heading, and see the models online and in your book for ideas on headings. All right, stages of the project. So, because we're online, this will apply, and this one won't, because we're not meeting face-to-face. But if we were meeting face-to-face, this one would apply as well. So firstly, you'll do the project in stages using group discussion feature in Google Docs. So you should have a shared folder in Google now, and you should be able to communicate to each other using comments in that. All right. So I won't be reading all those discussions because those are for you. But if you have questions about it, email me for sure. All right, and as we stated before, each stage, so stage 1 will be brainstorming, stage 2 evidence evaluation charts, stage 3 organizing charts, stage 4 partial draft, and stage 5 the final essay. All right. So let's move to the next lecture. So the first stage of our project. So we want to choose a topic, complete brainstorming, and choose a compiler and a co-compiler. So you'll do the projects in stages, and you'll be using the Google Docs. And we want to do these 3 main things in this stage. All right. So once again, here are some topics you might want to use. Mainly, you're going to discuss with your group the topic you want to choose for the problems essay, and then you're going to brainstorm about it. So brainstorming. Basically, first, we want to begin to investigate the topic by brainstorming. How will you limit your topic? What do you know already about the topic? Do you know any of the solutions already? Second, discuss your research questions for your major project and come up with tentative answers. How is the topic defined? What's its history? Who's affected? What are the causes and effects? What solutions should be implemented? Based on your discussions, determine your group's hypothesis statements for each of your research questions. Your research questions will help you in stage 2. You also want to choose a compiler and co-compiler. So who's going to serve as your compiler? The compiler will be responsible for the following tasks: posting all graded assignments for each stage of the project. As you discuss the topic you want to choose, you should also consider the ways in which your group can narrow the scope of the project. So that's what the compiler is going to do. The co-compiler is just a person who's backup in case the compiler cannot do it for whatever reason. So you'll want to choose the person who sort of is the leader of the group, but whose main function is to just make sure everything gets turned in on time. And you want to be very clear about who that is, because you don't want, that's a very important thing, right? So you don't want to be confused about whose responsibility it is. All right, so next section, stage 2 of the group project. And during stage 2, we'll be doing the evidence charts. So we'll be wanting to look at the library as well. Okay, during the second stage, the group members will create 5 evidence evaluation charts, and they'll make sure the sources are from a credible database. The group compiler will submit those charts So you want to begin to research and answer your group's research questions and find information needed. Everyone in the group should be looking for information for each section, and each group member should find at least 2 quality sources. 1/3 of your sources in your final paper may be internet sources, so limit the number of internet sources you find. The purpose of the evidence interpretation charts. So we want to compile information to share with the group members. That's the purpose. So the content of the chart will have the evidence, which is the information from the sources you've found that could be valuable to the essay. And then you'll have the interpretation, so the type of information found, the appeal of it, and the place where it can be used. So that's how you are going to use it in your essay, right? So you can use this video here to learn about finding credible sources. You can also use this worksheet to determine credible sources. Types of appeal. So when we consider our interpretation, we want to consider how we're using it to appeal to our audience. So we have ethos, logos, and pathos. The first one is credibility, the ethical appeal. Try to convince your readers because of your credibility and the credibility of the sources. Logos, logic, so convince your reader by means of reasoning and evidence. And pathos, emotions, convince your reader by appealing to his or her emotions. So those are the 3 valid ways that you could use to try to persuade somebody, right? So types of evidence. You could have expert testimony. You could have statistics. You could have anecdotal evidence. And you could have interpretation. So for each of these, when you provide evidence, you want to present it and then interpret it for the reader, right? So if you present the expert testimony, you then want to give your interpretation of that testimony. Statistics, you want to tell us how those statistics matter. Anecdotal evidence, you want to tell us how that anecdote, how that story matters to the problem and solution. So next, this is an example of what a evidence interpretation chart might look like. So you have evidence, then you have interpretation. So anecdote about a company that was hacked, and then you could talk about how it would be good to put this anecdote in a paragraph of examples of cybercrime to show cybercrime is pervasive. And here's some more examples that you could look at. So, assessing web sources, making sure we're picking good ones. So we want to make sure that the site has an author. We want to try to find the author, and then when we find the author, we want to see if they're credible. If it has no author, then it's less credible. But if the author is a credible institution, then maybe it would be very credible. So we want to look for professional and academic affiliations. We want to look for citations. We want to look for those kinds of things to find out whether they're credible. We also want to consider sponsorship. So who sponsors the site that you're reading from? What does the URL tell you? Does the sponsor have a mission? The purpose and audience of the site? How is the site created? Who is the site's intended audience? What level of audience does the site appear to be written for? If the site allows comments from the users, who are the comments from? And what other sites link to this web page or blog? Currency. How current is this site? How current are the site's links? Content. Can you verify the accuracy of the information presented? How are sources documented? On what basis have the internal links been selected? Has the information been reviewed by experts in the field? Design. Is the site professionally designed? Is the site easy to navigate? Does the site use correct and appropriate language? Does the site follow principles of good design? And next, using databases. So, as WCJC students, we have access to some databases through the library. So we want to access those by going to the WCJC homepage, clicking on library, choosing the search databases, log in, and search CQ Researcher first, then search eBooks second, and finally search Academic Search Complete third. Okay. So we want to look for the articles with the best information, and so we want to use those steps. Those are the easy steps by which to research in the library. All right. And lastly, in this section, we want to write a thesis statement. So based on our research guidelines, write a draft of the thesis statement for the group project. So the general format might be something like this. You might emphasize effects, emphasize causes, or emphasize the causes and effects. So you might phrase it like this. Because topic, your topic there, right? Because topic has negative effects of 1 and 2, solution 1 and 2 are necessary. Given the negative impact of the topic, such as negative effect 1 and negative effect 2, negative effect 3, solution 1 and solution 2 should occur. Because the cause 1, cause 2, and cause 3 create the topic, implementing solution 1 and solution 2 would be wise. Topic, which results in effect, is primarily caused by cause 1 and is secondarily caused by cause 2 and cause 3. Society should solution 1 and solution 2 to prevent the primary and secondary causes from occurring. Topic has the benefits of effect 1 and effect 2, but is limited by cause 1, cause 2, and cause 3. Therefore, society should have solution 1, solution 2 to ensure that the benefits do occur. So you could use one of these templates as your thesis statement and just insert your topic, your negative effects, your solutions, and your causes. All right. And it looks like our connection to the social issues library tutorial is broken. So we won't go through that at this point. But what about stage 3? So, in stage 3 of this project, we want to do organizing charts. Those charts are basically going to be using the information you've gathered so far and organizing that into a coherent essay. So, how are we going to organize it? We're going to organize it using 3 worksheets. So the first worksheet is scope and definition. So obviously you're going to write down the scope of your project and the definition of the problem you're facing in your project. Then you're going to do one on causes and effects. So what are the causes of the problem that your project is covering? And what are the effects of the problem? And then you're going to do one organizing solutions. So what are the solutions to the problems you're discussing? And now we're in stage 4. So what is stage 4 of the project? So this is the stage where you submit a partial draft. So basically, you want to first write an abstract. So what's an abstract? It's basically a little summary of what your essay is. So the first sentence, the time, context for the problem and the professionals who are concerned about it. The second sentence, comment on the interest in the problem and the need to solve it. Third sentence, general overview of the paper, that is, explains the problems and solutions. Fourth sentence, specific sentence about the aspects of the problem the paper discusses. And fifth sentence that identifies the solutions of the essay. So that's a quick summary of what would be involved in an abstract. An abstract is just a short summary of your project. And if you did it like this, you'd only have to write 5 sentences covering these topics. And here are revision questions. So you can ask yourself these questions of the partial draft when you submit it. So does the draft need additional better headings for the different sections? Do the individual paragraphs need additional documentation for source information? Is the evidence provided effective, adequate? Is additional evidence needed? Are the sources credible? Are the sources no more than 5 years old? Has the paper used more database sources than internet sources? Those are easy things to check for in your partial draft. And lastly, you're going to be submitting your final essay. So basically, you'll revise the rough draft, decide on the final essay and submit it, and be sure to ask me questions. You can ask yourself those questions that we just discussed, and respond to any of the questions that I asked when I reviewed your rough draft. All right, we already went through the sample cover page. So if you are interested in thesis statements, if you're interested in finding original sources, using phrases to integrate sources, or more signal phrases, or Google Docs info, that's all here as well. So here is a folder that has some models that you could use. And here's a folder that has where you submit the assignments. So here's a model identity theft paper. So if you are interested in looking at a paper that's already completed and trying to base your own writing off of that model, you can look at that. And here are models of the organization charts. So if you don't know what to do in the organization chart, you can look at some of these, and these will give you a model of what to follow, what your organization chart should look like. And then, of course, here are the folders for the 5 stages where you're going to submit things. So first, you're going to do brainstorming. So you're going to submit brainstorming here. Basically, you'll be filling out this worksheet, and you'll be submitting it to this brainstorming Turnitin link. After that, you can go to stage 2, evidence interpretation charts. So here's a blank evidence interpretation chart, and you're going to be filling out at least 5 of these and maybe more for extra credit, and submitting all 5 of those to these Turnitin links. After that, you're going to be doing stage 3. So these are the organizing charts. So in each one of these, you can find the organizing chart worksheet and then the place to turn it in. So here's scope and definition. And in each one of those folders, you should be able to find the blank worksheet and the place to turn it in. The blank worksheet for solutions, for causes and effects, and the place to turn it in. Next, we have partial draft. So here's going to be a form to use for the partial draft. And then here's going to be the place to turn in your partial draft. So let's look at that partial draft form real quick. So this basically gives you a rough outline of what your essay should look like. But obviously you will fill in all of this information, fill it in as you go with your own information so that it's your own essay, and then turn in that partial draft. And lastly, we have the final draft, or actually not lastly. The final draft, you'll turn in your final paper here at this link. And lastly, you'll do the group presentation. So you're going to submit a group PowerPoint here, which is going to be based upon your final draft. And I forgot to mention, this link right here is a file for the oral presentation rubric. So this is just going to be how I grade your PowerPoint presentation. All right, so, APA documentation we didn't really go through, but, we went through that, but what I would recommend for APA documentation, you can always look at the sample paper in the Purdue OWL Writing Lab. That's my go-to place for looking at formatting issues. You can also look at the models folder to see the model that had been submitted. But when you go to Purdue OWL, it should give you all the information about how to do general format for APA. And we'll look at that model paper as well. So this model paper should give you an idea of what an APA formatted paper might look like. If it ever loads for me. All right, here's Purdue OWL. Basically, you can go in here to the Writing Lab, to Research and Citation, APA Style, APA Formatting, and you should be able to find a sample paper, and as long as you mimic the sample paper, you should be doing all right. And this model identity theft paper should also serve you as a potential sample paper. So here we have it, identity theft. Here's the title page. Abstract, the abstract page, right? Then we have the essay starting. So notice that we always have the title in the upper left corner, and we have, or rather it's an abbreviated title, and then we have the page number in the upper right corner. We have centered headers. So this is the header, this is the title header, and then these are the different section headers. So we go on. So take note of some things. So when we talk about information from sources, so for instance, here's a statement that is cited. While identity theft is one of the fastest growing crimes in America, it is difficult to collect accurate statistics on it because it remains vastly undocumented. So where did they get that information? Apparently they got it from the essay by Abagnale, who wrote it in 2007, and it's from page 6. So this is an in-text citation, so it has the author name, it has the date, and it has the page number. Here is a quote. Now this is a long quote, and therefore it's a block quote. So we know that it's from Sid Kirchheimer, writing in 2006, and we know that it's on page 246. of that source. So those are in-text citations. Keep scrolling. And then we have the last page is going to be your references page. So this is going to be the citations done in APA formatting. So here's Abnali. That's the author's name, right? The date it was published, the title of the essay, and here's the publisher information. So it's published in New York, New York by Broadway Books. So that's a sample essay. So by the end of this few weeks here, you should have something like this produced with your group members. All right, so that's it for the group essay. If you have any questions about anything, or if any of those links remain broken, or if I didn't cover anything that I needed to cover, just let me know, email me, and I can get back to you and the rest of your classmates with questions. All right, have a good one.